record store owner was held liable for obscenity over music, though the stores eventually acquitted. So basically, y'all, they just start putting these labels on there, and you were supposed to, and even and some, depending on the store, sometimes you did have to have somebody that was older buy you the album. Like they were really, some places were being strict with it. And you had to have someone, probably 17 or older, I think, was, because I think they were keeping the same thing as MPAA, like for movies. So I'm assuming it would be 17 and up for you to have the album. And, you know, I'm a little record shop owner in Alexandria. I'm just trying to move units. Tower Records is kicking my ass right now, you know. Right. So I'm selling what I can out of my store. So they arrested, well, not arrested Jimmy, and then he cited. He wasn't arrested, they cited. So this starts kind of the ball rolling. So the American Family Association really started to come out against Mr. Luther Campbell in 1989. That is when As Nasty As They Want to Be is on there, and they really went after the song Me So Horny. Now, for those young kids that have not heard the song Me So Horny, we're not going to play it here, but it's a sample from the movie Full Metal Jacket, where a woman is, it's a scene in there where, and it's kind of like it's almost it's not a throwaway scene. It's just something that you would just be like, oh, that's some crazy shit in the movie, but you wouldn't think about, like, you know what, let me pull that out for a song. Right. And there's a scene where some of the GIs were in town, and some ladies of the evening were trying to offer their services. I'm trying to keep it.
I like that.
Ladies of the evening were trying to proposition
some business
this with the GIs that were in town, and you know they were shouting out, you know, I'll suck you long time, me so horny. And Luther Campbell and them, they're watching Full Metal Jacket, and they're like, I need that. You're watching it because it's so much tragedy going on in this film as a regular person, but not Luther Campbell. Luther Campbell sees that, and it's like, I need that for a song.
Right.
And that is the impetus for the song Me So Horny. Now, keep in mind, Luther Campbell's not even on that song.
Nope.
It's only Fresh Kid Ice and Brother Markie. So, but Luther Campbell's in the background. Luther Campbell, you know, is I would say he's more like a Lil Troy at this point. Is that a good way to look at him, as like a Lil Troy?
Well, he was the unquestioned leader of Two Live Crew.
He didn't start rapping until after this, right?
Well, he was rapping, but I think the thing that makes it interesting is that he was the undisputed leader of the group and the spokesperson.
Yeah.
So, you know, while Brother Marquise and the other guys, you know, they would talk in interviews and stuff, but Luke was clearly the star. He was the front guy. And he always was. And they had a cult following in Miami long before they even got a record deal, because as legend has it, they would create this music, and the music was based off of, I want to say, calypso. That's where it's kind of derived from, the Miami-based sound, but they had these little pirate radio stations in and around the neighborhoods in where they lived. I want to say it's Liberty City section, I think.
Yep,
of Miami.
I think that's where he is. I feel like that's where he would be from, Liberty City.
And correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm sure there's gonna be people from Miami watching and listening to this. But they had these little pirate radio stations, and on those radio stations, Luke and his group would, you know, they would play their music, because again, if it's a pirate radio station, the signal isn't that strong, so it may not even be reaching people on the other side of town. It's just really,
and it's not regulated. I believe those pirates, the whole thing is that they were pirate and they weren't regulated by the RIA either.
No, they weren't. I mean, like, you could play music on those radio stations, those quote unquote radio stations, because only the people who were listening knew that they existed. So again, the record labels and the people at you know, Def Jam or Jive Records, nobody knew that these albums existed. What always is interesting to me is the fact that as they move forward and they got bigger in popularity, once they started dropping albums, is how they sampled or took from other songs. And, you know, this was in a time in hip hop and rap. Well, I can't even call it hip hop. It was really called rap. This was a time in rap where, you know, they would take a song, you know, and it wasn't until, you know, Biz Markie got jammed up with sampling where, you know, but if you look at some of these early albums, a lot of songs were taken and stolen or sampled or borrowed or whatever word you want to use, and the artist got away with it. So I was always impressed as far as how he took it. Coming back to, you know, the sample for Me So Horny, I remember watching Full Metal Jacket, but to your point, D, I don't even remember that scene, to be honest. And I was so young when I saw it. So, you know, when they said they got it from, you know, that movie, I'm like, really? I'm trying to think, like, what scene was that? But it's just amazing to me, and that just goes to speak to, you know, Luther Campbell and his ear and what he could hear and what he thought, you know, the music should sound like, because he took a small little piece of a movie, and of course he didn't get it cleared. So
no, not at all.
And I think probably you do that with the knowledge of thinking that, okay, my people are going to buy this album. People in Miami are going to buy this album. It's not going to blow up or anything like that. It's not going to be a situation where somebody's going to ever come back and say, hey, you got to take that out of the song, or hey, why is this in the song, or this is my song, or this is my sample. So, but that's how they did it, man. And it was gangster. I ain't even gonna lie. It was gangster, because I was always impressed at how they got away with, especially once I got older, how they got away with some of that stuff. And, you know, they got sued for some of that stuff later on, but
it's after the main case, they start trying to come after them for the stuff.
Exactly.
You know, but what's so funny is, you know what it probably was, though. They really thinking about it. They didn't know how much Cats was making from rap. That's why I think that Cats got away with it for so long.
No, I mean, if you go back and look at, like, I'm looking at the track listing for Move Something. If you look at that, and then you look at the samples, like there's samples on every single track. There's 13 tracks. So they are sampling, and like probably one of the most famous samples from this album is track number 9, Do I Diddy, and they sampled
Do I Diddy.
Exactly. And I mean, like, if you think about it, D, it ain't even really a sample. They stole that song.
No, they stole it. It wasn't even a sample.
You know, like, so, but again, this is at a time where people weren't really paying that much attention to rap. So, and I don't think Biz Markie's case I don't think he got hit until like maybe 93, 94. Mm-hmm. And that's when, you know, you started seeing some
walls start tumbling down.
Let me go back to something you said as far as the labels. Okay, kids, let me be old for a second. Now, back in the day when rap came out, you know, they were cussing and stuff, but there wasn't really a lot of cussing going on. But what happened was, when they got in trouble with people thinking that their music was obscene, they said, okay, we're going to come up with a sticker. And the sticker is on every rap album that you saw where there was a lot of cussing on it. It says parental discretion advised. And so that was a sticker. And so there were some places, to Dee's point, there were some places where you could not purchase. If you were under 17, you couldn't purchase it if it had that sticker on it. Now, I've never been any place where they prevented me from purchasing it.
Oh, no. I had it happen to me. I've had it happen to me.
I never had it happen.
Now, the stores that it would happen at, it was only, and it's 2 stores I knew it would happen at. One was Blockbuster Music. Okay. They were notorious for it. And the only reason I think they did, because they were a super major chain associated with another chain at the time. Keeping kids, Blockbuster Video, if you don't know about that, had a music store at one point called Blockbuster Music. Right. That was which is another discussion we made. I'm going to write that one down. Is they were kind of revolutionary a little bit with letting you listen to the albums first.
No doubt.
And you like a library where you could take the CD off the shelf, and it was a gentleman behind like a library thing, and it was a CD player there, and he would put it in, and you could listen to the album before you bought it. Think of that novelty, ladies and gentlemen. But that's crazy. And I believe Tower Records was on that too, if I remember.
Tower did the same thing, and Tower eventually got to the point where they'd let you listen, but it would only be for like maybe 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
You could listen to it. There was nobody standing around. You could listen to it independently, and you could go through track by track by track. The only thing is, it would only be 30 seconds each track.
Okay, Blockbuster Music, you can sit there for a whole hour and a half and go through the whole album.
Wow.
Yeah, but and so Black music was notorious for, and I'm trying to remember, I feel like Sam Goody, not Music Land, even though they were all owned by the same people, I just feel like Sam Goody's for some reason was always trying to jam me up for whatever reason. And keep in mind, I look young now still, so you got to imagine how I looked at 14 or 15, walking in there trying to get a Reasonable Doubt CD. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but it did happen.
I never got stopped, but I do remember going into like a couple of mom and pop record stores in my hometown of Florence, South Carolina, and they would have like Two Live Crew it'd be on the shelf, and it'd be almost kind of like how you would have
like Penthouse back in the day and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Playboy magazine. Like it would be on the shelf, but there'd be a bar over it, and it's like and there'd be a sign that says can't purchase unless you're 17 or older.
Yeah, that was, and I have friends that be bold, like, let me get that Two Live Crew. You know, it didn't even matter. But also those mom and pop stores had more to lose as well if they did.
No doubt. And we saw it later, you know, to your point, as far as like people getting arrested for allowing minors to purchase music that had been deemed obscene, which was crazy to us because, you know, like, how do you define something to be obscene? What's obscene to one person may not be obscene to me. You know, Luke always said like his music was entertainment. His music wasn't any different than, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where people are getting killed, or a Scarface, or a pornography movie. He's like, it's all the same. It's your level of wanting to be entertained. And as much as people hated him for saying that, he was telling the truth. And so you really couldn't label something as obscene, even though they did. And subsequently, so when we got, you know, the NWAs and music like that further along down the line, they had, you know, that sticker on it. So when we got Biggie and Dr. Dre in the 90s, it had that label on it, the Parental Discretion Advisory sticker on it. But I'll be honest, it was not a deterrent for teenagers like me from purchasing.
I got that in my notes right here.
It was not a deterrent. I mean, like,
if anything, it amped it up. Of like,
exactly. I mean, like,
what are they talking about on there?
If you think about that time, if I think about that time in which I was coming up, and the albums that I bought, like outside of maybe Heavy D and Hammer, everybody else, and maybe Salt and Pepper, everybody else was cussing. Everybody else had that sticker.
Wasn't that much either though. Early. He had dropped some here and there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't remember them having a sticker, but everybody else, every other album that I bought back then, you know, from the late 80s into the 90s had a sticker on it. And I didn't care. It didn't matter. Yeah. You think I was not going to listen to Illmatic because they had a sticker on it? So maybe Tribe. I just thought about Tribe. Tribe's first album definitely didn't have any cussing on it. Neither, I don't think Low End had a sticker either. I don't think Midnight Marauders did either.
Midnight Marauders.
To be honest, D, I don't know what the tier was like. Did you have to? Could you say, you know, F something?
I know, yeah. So I know, like, sometimes like LL will cuss on songs, but it wouldn't get a.
What if DOC never got into that car accident? What if Ice Cube didn't leave NWA? What if The Game never leaves G Unit? What if Teddy Riley never moves to Virginia? What if we got that J. Cole and Kendrick album? What if the RZA would have never had that flood? How would the hip-hop world sound today? Welcome to Hip Hop What Ifs, the podcast where we dive into the biggest what could have beens in hip-hop history. From iconic album delays to game-changing partnerships that never happened, we reimagine the culture we love and explore its alternative paths. And you are now at Hip Hop What Ifs.